Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today I am covering The Night of the Living Dead, one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Please enjoy. Starting with a quick spoiler warning. If you haven't seen this movie, it's been out forever, so I mean, it's kind of on you at this point. But yeah, I am going to talk about the plot a little bit, a lot actually, and I am going to spoil some things in the movie because, like I said, it's been out for freaking ever. You probably should have seen it by now, but if you haven't, please go check it out. It is one of the best zombie films of all time. Honestly, my personal favorite. I think it's one of the best horror movies of all time, and a lot of other people do as well. It's very easy to access. You can access it on YouTube. You can check, I mean, literally anywhere. You'll be able to find this thing on streaming, on a DVD, and like a $5 bin. I mean, it's a very easy to access movie, so there's really no excuse saying you can't get around to it unless you just don't want to see the movie. But overall, like I said, definitely check this one out. I'm going to be going into the plot and what I really think about this film and how well it holds up today. One thing I would like to mention about this film, it is still pretty scary to this day. I mean, it holds up really well. Most movies, especially horror movies, as you go on throughout like the years, the fear factor tends to drop a ton. This one still has a few scary moments. I don't really get scared easily, especially during movies, but this one does have a few moments that still hold up to this day. And I love the dread atmosphere that is implemented on you from the very beginning of the film. The entire time you feel this heavy sense of dread that like something terrible is going to happen, and then of course it does with the undead coming back to life, like with the dead coming back to life and attacking these random people. And I think one reason that it is so scary is because these people are just that. They're just people. They're not like some special undercover cop, or they're not don't have like some special agenda as like most zombie movies you see today have. They're just regular average people, just ones you would find on the street, and they look like average people. I mean, these aren't like supermodels or anything. These are just regular everyday people that you see outside. I think that's what adds the fear factor because it makes it kind of personal in that way. And you don't see these was it I don't think they've acted really in like anything else notable. I think this was like the only big movie they've ever acted in from here on out, and it's just kind of incredible because like I said, it just adds to it because it makes it feel more authentic, it makes it feel more real. And even though they are like amateur actors, they give one heck of a performance. And I think it's because this they thought, this is our only shot at making a movie. That's probably why they pushed so hard and had such a great performance, because they're like, we have to give it our all because this might be our only time to shine. And they sure did. And I'm really glad of it because we got one heck of a masterpiece, and it is what put zombie movies on the map and also invented a lot of cool tricks for cinematography for almost every horror movie going forward from here on out. One of the first talking points I'd like to hit is the cinematography of this film. This is one of the first movies, like one of the earliest movies I've ever seen. There might be earlier ones, and if so, please leave in the comments if you know any. But this is one of the earliest films I've ever seen where they used the real close up angles for a fear factor to make sure you're not getting the whole picture. And then whenever you finally see it, you're kind of like, holy crap. One good example of this is Ben hits a zombie right on the nose, and as he's backing up with his hands on his face, it reveals that, hey, there's two more of them here, two or three more of them. I forget how much it showed, but yeah, it shows like there are more than what you thought originally. You thought, it's just three, it's just four. But once he hits this guy, that means there's more of them being revealed, and that means more are coming in towards the house, which adds to that dread. It's nothing over the top. The zombies aren't super fast. They aren't jumping over things. There isn't like you're not being bombarded, but it builds as the movie goes forward. So it starts off real slow, just one zombie just a weird panic that nobody really understands, a mystery that none of them seem to know. They're just hoping somebody else has answers, and they're listening and they're wondering. And then as it goes on, tensions start to rise. People in the house start fighting each other. They start wondering who's really the boss of the operation that is just in the house alone. And then they look outside and they're like, hey, we're all about to die. It gets scarier as it goes because you feel more dread for the people in the film as the movie carries on.
I'd drag you out there and feed you those things.
Now, one thing I really want to talk about too is the plot, because you really get the sense that life is just being interrupted at this point. A bit, and that's because of all like the small stories you get from the characters themselves. Tom and Judy, they're just a young couple out for a nice day, and then all of a sudden this stuff happens. They come to the house as a refuge, and they find Harry and Helen, and the whole reason they're there is because they were out for a drive looking for a hotel when it was dark, and their what was it car got flipped by a bunch of these things that they didn't even know what it was. They looked like people, but they weren't acting like people, and that their daughter even got bit by one. But they're also having a struggling marriage. They were fighting throughout the film. You can tell like their marriage hasn't been good for a while, and you have one couple just starting, one couple on the verge of ending a relationship, and that's pretty heavy there because they didn't expect this to happen. It was just out of the blue. And then, of course, you got our main character, there's Ben and Barbara. Ben is just a guy we don't know anything about. We don't know what his business was. We just know that he was at a diner. Everything went to pot, and he just ran out of there, and then ended up finding the house on accident because he noticed there was a gas pump, and he needed to fill up the truck that he stole with gas. He only stole it because he was in a panic and had to get out of there. And most likely, the owner of that truck was already dead at this point. Now, Barbara, she was just visiting her father, I think it was her father at a grave site in the cemetery with her brother. Her brother gets attacked. She gets attacked. Her brother dies, and she ends up having to run to this house. That's how we're actually introduced in the film to Barbara, to show you that this isn't just something regular. Like, this isn't something set up, and you can tell it feels real because out of nowhere, the life that they've taken for granted, like they drive up there or every year, I think like once a month, just to visit this site, and this is something that they take for granted. They're just used to, and out of nowhere, this big threat comes, interrupts everything, and pushes them out of their comfort zone. And that's what makes it truly scary because you can relate to that. And I think that's what makes the movie so relatable. Is it's just an everyday, like regular life. It's not like some rich, lavish guy getting interrupted. No, it's just somebody you see every day. It's yourself who's having their life interrupted by these creatures. And I think that's what adds to the fear factor because it's relatable.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Stop it! You're ignorant.
They're coming for you, Barbara.
Stop it! You're acting like a child.
They're coming for you. Look, there comes one of them now.
Now, one thing I really think puts it on the map that other movies don't have is this movie has a heavy lack of stereotypes. Because this one invented the zombie stereotype, but it has a lack of just character stereotypes. For instance, there's no real villain besides the threat outside. Harry is probably the most despicable out of all of them, but he's just a person who wants to be in control. He's not inherently evil. He just wants to be right. He's just one of those guys that just has to be right all the time. But it does end up getting them into trouble because he doesn't work well with others. He's not a villain. He's just, a crappy guy. Um, Ben, who's the hero of the story, sure, he's like more assertive and more takes control of everything, but he's not your average male hero. He's not like a big know-it-all. He's just as confused and as scared as everybody else is in this scenario, and he even makes wrong decisions and still fights with the others. Barbara, she's in shock the whole time, but she's not like your average damsel in distress because usually she would fall in love with Ben because Ben's the one who found her. They don't fall in love in this movie. Uh, in fact, they're just, people. They don't know each other. They're not going to fall in love. Nothing out of place seems to happen. You feel like you're in the house with a group of people who are panicking over this threat. It honestly, as I said before, it seems very realistic, and that's what adds to the fear factor, is because it's realistic. It's not fake. You don't have your horror movie, let's make this dumb decision. No, dumb decisions are made because people cannot get along. For instance, Harry's right whenever he says, if we go into the cellar, we'll be safe. But that doesn't mean he was right the whole movie. The thing is, if he got along with them, if he was able to work with them, they would have gone into the cellar at the end anyway if they had to. That was their whole thing. We don't want to go down there now because we can go down there if we have to. At least we have a fighting chance up here. At least we have supplies, a way out if needed. In the cellar, there's no place to go. But Harry was just so dead set on the cellar, and because they didn't want to go down there right away, he put their lives into jeopardy over and over and over again. And he's one of the reasons all of this whole operation fell apart. Another reason is none of them trusted each other. The whole reason Judy ran out and got her and Tom killed is because she didn't trust Ben to keep Tom safe. She didn't trust Harry to keep Tom safe. She wasn't in on the plan fully, so she didn't trust anything that was going to happen and ran out there herself and ended up getting them both killed due to her own actions to prevent that. It's the lack of trust, the lack of understanding, and the lack of calm communication that's what got them killed. They didn't work together. There's no real villain. The whole reason everything failed is because they just would not settle their differences, pick a clear leader, pick a clear path, and follow it. They didn't trust each other. They didn't end up liking each other, and it just all went downhill from there, which would most likely happen over and over again if a real zombie apocalypse type scenario ended up popping up here in like United States or anywhere in the world. Honestly, we would see this type of situation over and over. And I think the one thing that hurts the most about it is whenever Ben dies by the rescue party shoots him in the head. And I think the thing that hurts the most about that is nobody's going to know their story. It's just all gone. In that universe, nobody's going to know. They're just another body. They're just laying there. They lost their humanity. Nobody knows the struggle they went through that entire night. And I think that's one of the reasons that this ending is so shocking and it just hits so hard. And this is one of the reasons it's one of my favorite horror films of all time because of all the different things in it, of all the different parts that's put together. It's not over the top. It's just right. The dread's built perfectly. The cinematography's done great. There's not a whole lot of like cheesy moments. Honestly, it's a very well put together film all the way around. And like they had like no budget for this thing either. So which is amazing that they can pump out such a masterpiece with just a camera and then like a small crew of people. Honestly, this is a cinematic, like I said, this is a cinematic masterpiece, and I think it honestly deserves more recognition. The thing is, it's kind of been thrown down in the dumps because with rights reasons, anybody can have the rights. It's in the public domain due to things going wrong and with George A. Romero and stuff. And so nobody wants to make anything for it, like no merch or anything, because they feel kind of like it might be wrong because this is just, a public domain piece, but it deserves so much more. And that's one of the things that really hurts about this is, you don't get a lot of merch and it doesn't get a lot of recognition because people don't really, I don't think, know how to deal with that. And the only people that give it recognition are people just cashing in on the name or cashing in on the brand, making terrible straight to DVD movies, which I have sadly watched a couple of them. And let me tell you, I might hit them up later, but they're all really bad. So if you ever go to watch a Night of the Living Dead movie, this is the one I'm going to recommend. But there are 2 other Night of the Living Dead films I am going to cover in 2 later videos. It's time for my overall final thoughts on the film. And I just got to tell you, 10 out of 10, one of my favorite films of all time. I think this is a perfect movie. And it's rare that I give movies a perfect score. Of course, like all my favorites, I'm gonna rate as a perfect film, but this is definitely probably one of the best horror movies ever created. One of my personal favorites. I watched this one a lot. I've seen like every other version I can get my hands on. I'm actually going to talk about the other two versions of this movie that are actually based on this film and actually have like, the characters and stuff in my next videos. That's the Night of the Living Dead remake and the Night of the Animated Dead, which is just the animated version of this. I'll talk about that one in a video coming up. But overall, like I said, perfect film. 10 out of 10. I love it. I think you'll love it. If you love films, if you love horror, if you love zombies, check this movie out. Anyway, that's all for me. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button on the way out. And also tell me any movies you would want me to review or you would want me to watch. Or if you'd want me to talk about anything with movies, that would be great too. Anyway, I'm Roman Ritchie, signing off.